Hello and welcome to MissouriNet.com from the Missouri Net Studios. I'm Bill Pollack, and I'm joined this week as we talk Mizzou and Kentucky by Shane Bailey of SECSportsRoundtable.com. We've had him on in the past talking SEC sports in general, and he's our expert when it comes to the Kentucky Wildcats. Shane, nice to see you once again. Thank you for joining me.
Wow, thanks for the kind words, expert. That's not been thrown around with me much, but I appreciate that.
Well, you have some great podcasts with a good crew there, and I know deep down you are a Kentucky Wildcat fan. So from a fan standpoint, how excited are people about the Wildcats this year?
Well, I don't know if you were able to catch any of the first game against Florida, but just listening to the crowd at the very beginning of that game, it showed how excited I think they are for football this year in the Bluegrass State. Things are on an uptick over there, and they're excited, I think, but that quickly turned to some disappointment after the first maybe I think it was the first play of the game when Tolles had just I know it was the first drive, just a beautiful pass straight into Baker's hands in the end zone for a touchdown to go up 7-0 on their first drive, and he just drops it, and we convert for no points there. And that's the state of Kentucky football. I mean, if you've been a Kentucky football fan, there's been, the triple overtime game against Florida last year, where we probably, if you believe what the clock said, when it was 0 and they hadn't hiked the ball, it should have never even come to that, and it should have been a victory. And we're not going to look for 29 years without a victory against Florida. It should have been 27, and 28 slipped through our fingers again this year as well. But a lot's to be excited about, I think.
Well, it certainly sounds like Kentucky fans and Mizzou fans can relate when it comes to heartbreak losses, tough breaks, ways to lose football games that no one can imagine. I think we can certainly, in terms of those disappointments and close calls, relate with what the Wildcats are going through.
Yeah, I think it's only trumped by the Dooley error at Tennessee with some of the mishaps and losses that they were able to walk away with at Tennessee. So, but yeah, heartbreak is a thing in Kentucky football, but we have basketball season, so.
And you dominate there. So listen, you can't have both. You can't be that greedy. You can't have both. But all right, let's talk a little bit about the team and Patrick Tolles, Jr. I mean, he's the guy that makes this thing roll, doesn't he?
I want to say yes, but I mean, if you look at his performance last week and even, against South Carolina, it was at times a little shaky. He as strong of an arm and as mobile as he is, and he is a very mobile quarterback. He's got a tremendous arm. At times, aside from a couple of drop passes like the Baker one I told you this week, and again, he had one earlier in the season as well. Tolles has been somewhat inaccurate. A lot of passes were a little high. There's times where you want to throw it high to your tall receiver so that they're the only ones that have a chance, but you can't throw it 12 feet, into the air. So accuracy has been a little bit of an issue to me on Tolles this year, and it's caused for a couple of interceptions on his part. If he can get some of that accuracy back that he has the capability and the talent to do, offensively things can get a lot better. I mean, we still have a strong backfield with Kemp and Boom Williams, who only rushed for 80 yards against Florida. They were able to do a lot to stop that run game by and large. But, we have a really good run game to complement Tolles. So Florida found a way to stop both realistically. I mean, up until the fourth quarter, we were not having lots of success, but Kentucky stuck with that game plan, didn't give up completely on the run, had some decent runs by Williams as well as Kemp, fourth down drive to get a touchdown to bring it close. But, it's a tough loss for Kentucky, especially knowing that you could have went up on your first drive 7-0 against Florida with the environment that you had at Commonwealth Stadium. They just spent hundreds of millions of dollars renovating that stadium. The fans were hungry, and all of a sudden you had it deflated. Never were, I think, truly recovered there. We kept Florida from scoring in the second half from a Kentucky standpoint. So defensively, that's where we're extremely strong. And that's the strength of the program this year, is defensive on the defensive side of the ball. And that was an area I thought we were going to have a few concerns, but shutting out Florida in the second half, giving our offense a chance, is leads me to believe that there's an opportunity for some extra wins in the SEC. You're going to have to beat somebody you're not supposed to, though, because I don't think, aside from the Vanderbilt game, Kentucky's going to be favored to win in any of our conference games.
Talking with Shane Bailey, SECSportsRoundtable.com. This question is to the Mizzou fans watching. Kentucky, don't they sound a lot like Mizzou, a quarterback who's a little inconsistent, and they rely on their defense to keep them in some ball games? I mean, that's been Mizzou's blueprint, not only last year, but now 3 games into this season too. You think this is going to be a low? I mean, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. It might be another 14-9 situation if Kentucky's defense is good. That's what Mizzou is building their team off of. Strong defense. There's some big question marks for Missouri's offense. We could be looking at another game where it's 14-9.
I have a tendency to think that Kentucky's going to be able to get a little success, and that's because of their run game. They're going to be able to set up and relieve some pressure off of Patrick in the pocket. With Boone Williams and Kemp in the backfield, they've got a tremendous offensive line, and that's why they were able to wear down Florida. As good as Florida's defense was, they were able to start to get some success on that. And so defensively, I think at some point that run game is going to take hold and get some successes. And both of those guys, especially Williams, I mean, he could turn around and break one off. And if you're not able to get him in that first line, you might not be able to catch him. And so there's a great opportunity to score through the run game. And if you have an effective run game and you got to bring an extra guy into the box to help stop the run, all of a sudden that's going to open up your passing lanes. So there is opportunity for Kentucky to score if Patrick can be more efficient, more accurate, and the offensive line can establish some holes, which they've been able to do against South Carolina and Florida. There's an opportunity for Kentucky to put some points on the board. Because I mean, that's what they're built around. I mean, they have that air raid offense mentality, that they had back in the 80s with Mummy and Tim Couch. They want that same type of ability to score. And so they're going to try to get lots of plays off. They're not going to do that full West Coast West Coast offense and spread them out. But there's going to be lots of plays, and doing so, you're going to have the ability to create some holes and havoc on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, that'll be a good matchup. And to go to your point, just some of the numbers here for Boone Williams, as you mentioned, 80 yards in the Florida game, but so far 322 on the season. He's averaging 8.1 yards per carry. And Tolles has found 9 different receivers, and he's found 3 for touchdowns. So he certainly can move the football around. He's got some different weapons, and that may be the one thing that perhaps Missouri hasn't seen is their defense hasn't faced a team that's maybe as dynamic or has as many options as Kentucky has. So that could be an interesting matchup, as you said, Shane. Now, let's talk about your defense a little bit. What should we look for in this matchup? Because obviously the run game is suffering a bit for Missouri, and they're going to have to rely, I think, a little bit more on Matty Mock's legs, but also his ability to get the ball to receivers and have him be a little more consistent. So what should Mizzou fans be watching on the Kentucky defensive side of the ball?
I think you're going to see a fair amount of blitzing, especially with Missouri having some problems with that run. If Matty Mox has any hesitancy in the pocket, you're getting some extra pressure. It's going to make it more difficult for you guys. I mean, holding Florida to 0 points in the second half after, giving up 14. But you're going to have the Jekyll and Hyde effect because if you go back two games to South Carolina, I think Kentucky put up 20 some odd points in the first half, held South Carolina to 6 or 9. They were that bend, don't break mentality. They would get closer to the red zone, stop them. They would have to settle for a field goal. South Carolina was not able to reach the end zone in the first half. It was a very stifling defense. It was very effective. But then in the second half, South Carolina had the opportunity to score some points. And they were a failed 2-point conversion going the other way from tying that ball game late in the fourth quarter at South Carolina. And so Kentucky does have it.
Oops, we lost Shane there for a moment.
I mean, you don't make defensive side of the ball. It's just can they do that consistently for 4 quarters?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there at the end, but I think we got your point. Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, bend, don't break defense. That's what Missouri's had in the past with Dave Steckel. Barry Odom a little more aggressive. We see some more blitzing from him. Shane thinks some blitzing from Kentucky. Something's got to give at this point, right? I mean, one of these offenses has to get going. Shane, when you look at the schedule and you talked about must-win games for Kentucky, or games that maybe you win that you're not supposed to win, is that one of these games here against Mizzou? Is this one that they have to win?
I mean, if you look at it from the Kentucky side, there's probably not a win against Georgia. And so you got to look at what else they have remaining on their schedule.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here. I'm trying to share your website here as we talk.
No, thank you. It's like, oh no, what just happened?
Yeah, nope.
Since you said we froze just a second ago, I thought you scared me. But you look at what they're going to have on the non-conference side, and they face Louisville, who's their in-state rival, the very last game of the season. That could or could not be a win. So finding wins in the SEC to get to 6 wins and be bowl eligible is going to be extremely important. Florida was one they I think would have circled as one they should need to win to have an opportunity. Missouri is going to be one. Vanderbilt's going to be one. And then they're probably going to have to steal one, maybe from Tennessee. And that might be a difficult task as well, because Tennessee is definitely on the upswing. But they've got their own problems to worry about at Tennessee. So Missouri is one from a Kentucky standpoint you look at and say, if you can get 3 and you can win Louisville, now all of a sudden you win 2 in the SEC, Missouri and South Carolina, you're bowl eligible. So there's an opportunity there. And then if it doesn't, you've got to find a 3rd win in the SEC if you're going to lose to Louisville at the end of the season.
Pivotal games for both the Kentucky Wildcats and the Missouri Tigers. It is a 6:30 Central kick from the new and improved Commonwealth Stadium. What are some of the changes they've made there at that stadium?
I've not been there yet, but from everything I understand, it's just basically a whole new stadium. I think it was $140 million renovation, new sound system, new electronics, better seating, some suites. They're just bringing it up to what a college football facility for the fan experience is supposed to be, or is what fans expect these days. In addition to that, new facilities for the football program itself. So lots of improvements just all around the board there at Commonwealth Stadium in Lexington. So it should be, from all indications, it's a great place to go see a game. It was before, but it's even better now.
All right, good stuff. Shane Bailey from SECSportsRoundtable.com giving us his thoughts on the Kentucky Wildcats as we get ready for this matchup. Shane, thanks for the visit, and we'll catch up again during the season. We'll talk more SEC football.
Sounds good, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for watching us at MissouriNet.com.